You are listening to Dove Valley Deep Divers with Eric Trickle
and Lance Sanderson.
Ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
On Overtime Media.
And it looks like we are live. Going to give Bawana Beast at John KMHH, John Cronenberg, our good producer behind the scenes, a chance to get the Facebook group in here. We are good to go. Got green check marks across all platforms. Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country, and welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me as per usual is my good friend and colleague, Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst and full-time staffer now. This is a good big piece of news. Eric, what's up, my dude? This is Eric Trickle, guys.
Well, I mean, you're just a little bit premature on that. I mean, the full-time position doesn't actually start until August 1st, but it's coming around the corner. Getting near, I was able to turn in my notice at my day job and excited for that. I mean, it's been a pretty good week. There's just the fact that I know that I'm going to get out of a place that was so draining mentally and being able to stay home, spending time with my daughter more. Like, it's just such a great feeling going to be able to sit here and just bust out content even more, have a lot of big things in the works. So it's been a really good week. I'm a little tired. It's been a draining week, but I'm excited.
Yeah, man, I feel you. I would love to be able to do that. I really would, to be able to give up what I do for the day job and come to do, Mile High Huddle full time and everything. I can't do that right now. I mean, we just bought a house. I'm in my new studio for the first time. It's not quite all the way set up, guys. So apologies if I sound just a little bit funky tonight. But no, it's been fun. Congratulations to you. As one of my best friends, I'm very proud of the work that you do and proud of you and the work that you've put in and the dedication and passion you have for doing this and really being one of the staples and probably the cornerstone of what Mile High Huddle is. So congratulations to you and to your family. I know that this means a lot for you. So just congratulations again. For me, on the other hand, like I said, we just finally got moved in. I'm in the new place now. Everything's good to go. I had a big barbecue for the family the other day. Been working my tail off, and quite honestly, now that we're all set up and ready to go, I can't wait to get started on cranking out some new content. I got a film piece coming on Jerry Jeudy. We're going to talk about some of the Jerry Jeudy drops that we had last year. Not necessarily the big Chargers game, but the stuff over the course of the season where people, kind of touted the inconsistencies with him, and not necessarily that's not true, but there's some more context that we're going to get into that as well. So I'm really excited to write that piece. But go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to be doing one here in a little bit. I mean, that's the one thing with being able to go full-time for the site is going to have a lot more time to be able to do film breakdowns. I mean, right now, working a full-time job, that really takes my time away with how much I've got to do on a weekly basis. So having this film time, I mean, every week, once this happens, it's going to be a film piece almost every single day, and I'm super excited for that. I love those articles, being able to break down everything that I'm seeing for people and explain things as the way they are. And very excited for that, and excited for your Jerry Jeudy piece. I know I'm going to be doing one too. Very similar thing, but it'll be a little bit closer to the start of the season, and I think our focus will be a little bit different as well.
Nice. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to do an Afc West breakdown like I always do. Going to have 4 pieces rolling out really fast, breaking down the rosters and how the season is going to shake out. Maybe go back and revisit some quotes and do some stuff about some of the roster battles in the preseason and in training camp and whatnot. Not necessarily talking about just Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, which we're going to get into that here in just a few minutes. But talking about Quinn Miners versus Lloyd Cushenberry, some of the interior defensive lineman battles, linebacker battles as well, who might be the 5th cornerback on this roster. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm very excited to get back to work. I haven't been able to do so just because I've been so busy at work and so busy with moving and getting settled into the house. We finally got internet service out here, so I'm able to do the show out here for the first time. So very exciting stuff in the near future. But today, guys, we have a really fun topic for you, at least in our opinion. This is the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast, where we do deep, intense dive takes on your Denver Broncos. And today we're going to talk about the coaching staff and what the coaching staff has to do to be able to, ensure that they have the next season. Vic Fangio signed a 4-year contract 3 years ago. He's going to year 3. So to make sure that he runs out the life of that contract and maybe even gets a contract extension, what is he going to have to do? And what also does that mean for Pat Shurmur, for Ed Donatel, Tom McMahon, Mike Munchak, and a couple of the other assistant coaches that are a little bit more well-known? But before we get started on that, guys, we got some super chats piling in here. I'm going to grab the one from George right now here, John. We've got George Newton coming in here with a super sticker, thumbs up with a $2 donation. 36 days until preseason kicks off. Man, I'm super stoked. Eric, what do you think, man?
I'm super excited. I mean, I know preseason, a lot of people shrug it over, but that's where a lot of guys make the roster. That's where a lot of guys not necessarily make a name for themselves, but make a case for themselves. Like, I love the preseason. I love what it means to a lot of these guys, a lot of these young guys that are on the squad. Like, these games are so important, and they were very much missed last year.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I kind of downplayed it a little bit, and I'm not going to lie. I didn't think that it was necessarily as big of an issue as it really was. I didn't think that the missing OTAs, missing minicamp, and everything with a new offensive coordinator. Pat Shurmur jumping in, with Drew Lock coming in, the second offensive coordinator in 2 years, having to learn a whole new offense with no extra practice time. I was like, I understand. I get it. There's some timing issues and stuff like that you got to work out. There was obviously some footwork issues Drew really needed to work on, but at the same time, I was like, these guys are professionals. They've been working on it. They had some private practice sessions and stuff like that. They were saying about how great they were doing, how the offense was looking just incredibly explosive over the course of the summer. And then we got into it, and it didn't really play out that way, and there was a lot of struggles. And maybe this year we're going to see, with the continuity, with the ability of having these guys in the same system for 2 years in a row, and getting some more timing work together and everything like that. Maybe we will see some big improvements. But let's get back to the chat here really fast. Let's see here. Stu McPeak jumping in off the top rope. Stu, it has been a long time since we've seen your face in this stream. John, you got that? There it is. Jumping in with a $20 super chat. He is on Zeus, I think. Zeus McPeak is what everyone calls him, on the Mile High Huddle. What is it, Mount Rushmore? Yes, those are the terms. It's been a long time since I've had to say that. But Stu, good to see you in here, buddy. We appreciate you for joining us tonight. In the shop with Willie, coming in here with a $2 super. Vic Fangio has a longer leash than we think, in my opinion, with the obligatory lock emojis there. Now, let's see here. I think there was one more that I wanted to grab really fast, and then we'll say hello to the rest of the chat. Andrew Morrow coming in here with a $2 super. Keep up the great work, gentlemen. We appreciate that, Andrew. Thank you guys for joining us. Saying hello to everybody else. Jay Kozad in the house. Tommy Simmers in here. Mike S saying what's up on YouTube. We have Greg Smith in here on Facebook as well. We had Tim, I think is his name. Tim jumping in here on Twitch. Got to say hello to our Twitch subscribers. Guys, subscribe on Twitch. It's another great way for you guys to check out our content. And we appreciate you all for joining us. Now, Eric, I want to get back to that.
There's one person I want to say hello to. Jody Moncrief, we haven't seen you in here for a long time.
Wow, holy cow.
Says, can we talk how bad Bulls is? LOJK. Haven't got to say that to you in a minute. Hey, Jody, I just have one question. How's that crow taste, man?
Yeah, it's gotta be pretty tasty. Do you eat it with sriracha, A1, or ketchup? I gotta know. I gotta know, because I'm telling you what, if my lock takes come to fruition, I'm gonna have to figure out a new way to cook it, and I'm not necessarily looking forward to that. But I want to get back to that super chat from In the Shop with Willie really fast, and talking about Vic Fangio and how long of a leash does he actually have. Now, Eric, I personally think that Fangio has a little bit longer of a leash than most people. I think that they want to try to see what that continuity gets and really take a look at what this season plays out. What do you think about Vic Fangio's chances on getting another season as of right now? I know it's early, but as of right now, what do you think?
I think they're better than most. Now, I don't think that he's guaranteed to stay by any means. I don't think he should be written off as for sure gone. A lot is going to depend on what he does, obviously what the team does this year. I mean, if they make the playoffs, I think he's back. But the issue is that in between, because if they have a losing season, if they're 7-9 or 7-10,
7-10, yep, 7-10,
7-10, 8 or 9 or worse, then I think it's really pushing him out. But what if they're in that between area? What if they go 10-7 and just happen to miss the playoffs? That's where it gets a little bit muddy for me. I think that at those points, I think I lean towards the fact that he would stay. Well, I know others would go that he would be gone, but I don't think George Paton wants to come in and make a huge move right that after just 1 year. He kind of wants to give Fangio a little bit of time. I mean, Fangio and him, they got pretty close over this offseason. I don't know. I just think that they're willing to give him another year, especially if the quarterback position isn't fixed. If a lot of this falls on the quarterback position and the defense is doing well, then I think it pushes even more for Fangio to stay.
I actually agree with you on that. And a big part of the reason why I say that is because of the way that the hiring process went with George Paton in the first place. I mean, Vic Fangio was a big key in that. I mean, he was in the interviews. They went out to dinner at Elway Steakhouse and had dinner together. That was a big reason why George Paton wanted to come to Denver, was that Vic Fangio was the head coach. Now, I understand that there is, the want or potentially the need to move on from Vic Fangio just because he struggles very early in the season. Obviously, he has not won a game in September under his tenure as the Broncos head coach, and that's got to change. Like, quite honestly, the Broncos have to get off to a hot start. They've got an easy first 3 games. They play the Giants, the Jaguars, and the Jets in the first 3 weeks, and I think 2 of those games are is it 2 games or one of those games? I know the Jets game is at home because we're going to be there September 26th to do the Mile High Huddle meet and greet. But I mean, those first 3 games are easy, and or at least against easier opponents. The Jets and Jaguars were the number 1 and number 2 overall picks this last offseason. So they're bad teams, and the Broncos have a great defense going against young quarterbacks. Like, those are teams that the Broncos should manhandle mightily. I mean, the Giants game might be a little bit more tough than people want to admit it, but still, if Vic Fangio comes out of those.
On that point, that Giants defense is a lot better than a lot of people think. They have one of the best linebackers in the NFL that widely goes under the radar, in Blake Martinez. I mean, this guy is super good. Like, as the season went on last year, they got stronger and stronger. Their issue is similar to the Broncos. Can they get consistent play out of the quarterback position? Like, that's just the big question for them. And this is going to be that will be a very interesting game because you've got Daniel Jones versus Drew Lock, and they're just 2 quarterbacks that have never shown the consistency needed to actually be a quarterback.
Well, they're 2 quarterbacks going into year 3. Daniel Jones was the number 6 overall pick, I think, if that's right, in 2019. And then obviously Drew Lock at number 41 overall to the Broncos. So these are 2 young guys, and Drew Lock had a first-round pedigree in most people's eyes. I mean, Eric, I think you had him as number 26 overall prospect that year with a fringe first-round grade. He was
just inside the first round. Yeah.
Just inside the first round. Okay, so I mean, Drew Lock has all the talent in the world. Let's not kid around here. We've never shied away from saying that. It's just the consistency and the decision making is the big issues there. Now, to get back to Vic Fangio and to that same point here, starting off hot. If that's something that he has not done in his entire tenure as the coach. So if he comes out, 1-2, or if he comes out less than 2-1, at least he should start the season 3-0. This Broncos team is good enough to really handle the Giants, even though the Giants defense is a lot better, and they're taking on the form of Joe Judge. Like, they have that personality about them. They're a scrappy team, but the Broncos should come out of September 3-0. They really should. And if they don't come out of September at least 2-1, that's a disappointment. And that's where the seat really starts to get warm with Vic Fangio. And this is kind of the second point that I want to discuss here about him, his game management. The game management issues that he had last season, calling timeouts, not necessarily being aware of the situation of what's going on in the field at all certain times. Now, that's something that I'm not sure if they're doing a really big job of trying to overhaul the process behind that. I know it was Mitch Tanny, I think was his name, that they had in 2019. They let him go because Vic Fangio didn't like him in his ear or on the headsets during game time. Now, Eric, to me, that's a big thing. And if the Broncos do drop a game, maybe to the Giants, if they get beat or it's a close game or something like that, so long as the team plays well and there's not a head coaching gaffe, like a timeout that should have been taken, is that something that you can excuse for Vic Fangio, so long as that lasts over the course of the majority of the season?
It definitely is. And I think last year, I don't think that the timeout issues, the game management issues last year from Vic Fangio were as big or as prevalent as a lot of other people do. There's a lot of moments that have been brought up in these things where Vic Fangio actually made the correct decision. I think the biggest issues were in that Tennessee Titans game early on in the season, the season opener, and then a couple other games early on in the season. And then there's some that are brought up towards the end of the season. It's like, well, based on analytics, he made the right choice. It just failed, which obviously you don't want to fail those. But, I mean, I don't think they're as big of an issue, so I think it's a little bit easier to overlook. I mean, and on that point, you just don't want to you don't want to sit there and have a bad management situation and then hear him say after the game, "Oh, I was too focused on calling the next play for the defense."
Right.
That's what bothers me the most about his time management issue against the Titans is afterwards he was why? Like, focus on the time first. If that's going to be an issue, then either have somebody in your ear, but if that bothers him, then have a coach there. Like the Rams for McVay, they have the guy that pulls him back. That's his whole job. Have a guy for the Broncos that his whole job is to just watch the time and to say, "Hey, take a freaking time out here, coach."
Yeah, and they had that. Like I said, they had Mitch Tanney. He was the analytics expert. I think that's what his name was. I could be wrong. Chat, correct me if I'm.
Mitch Tanney was the analytics department, but it wasn't so much game management that he was in his ear about.
Okay, so thank you for that. But regardless, they had a guy that was supposed to do that, and I mean. It kind of ties in, and the third point you touched on it briefly was with Vic Fangio. Do we need to see him delegate some more responsibilities? You know, like he's the head coach of the team, not just the defense, and he's out there coaching the defense and calling the plays and stuff like that. Not necessarily focused on what's going on with the offensive side of the football. And he admitted that blatantly multiple times. I was more focused on calling the next play defensively, seeing what we were going to do, getting our personnel correct and stuff like that. I appreciate that, especially as a defensive coach that's been in the NFL for 40 plus years. I mean, obviously that's his bread and butter, so let him do his thing. But do we need to see him delegate some more responsibility down the chain of command to like an Ed Donatel, maybe get Bill Kolar or Reggie Herring involved in some of this stuff? Or is that something that is more fluff than like hot take? Or what do you think about that?
I mean, obviously, you want to delegate a little bit, but not too much. And George Newton came in and said Fangio was used to managing the game from the skybox. Sideline is a whole different perspective. He's never managed the game. That's the thing. So it's always going to be taking time for him to get there. So delegating some of this stuff to Ed Donatel, to Bill Kohler, like, I don't know if that exactly moves the needle exactly, because these are guys that they don't really have that. I definitely wouldn't trust Donatel to call plays. I mean, he did all right when he needed to, but it's not something I would be doing full time. I'd be looking at somebody who has head coaching experience, maybe your offensive line coach, Mike Munchak,
right? And
sitting there and having him kind of delegating some of this, delegating the time management stuff, delegating some of the offensive stuff to him, even Pat Shurmur a little bit. I know, big reason why they wouldn't hire a veteran guy on that is because Vic Fangio has no idea what he's doing with the offense. So
right.
That's why he initially wanted a veteran guy on offense, but LA kind of forced Rick Scangarello on him. So, like, you want to delegate, but you got to find the right people to delegate to, and the guys you mentioned, I just don't know if they're the right ones.
Right. And I mean, it was just kind of a thought of trying to get Vic more focused on the entirety of the game and not just so focused on the defense. And Ed Donatel and Vic Fangio have been together for a long time. I know they worked together in Indianapolis. I think they worked together in San Francisco and in Chicago as well. So they've gotten a chance to know each other. And with Donatel's experience within Vic Fangio's scheme, it seems like he would be able to at least call the plays, and take some of that responsibility away from Vic Fangio. Now, your idea on Mike Munchak, that's a really good point, and something I didn't necessarily think about, because he's not at the forefront of the team right now. He's not obviously calling plays. He's not doing anything like that. He's just working with his guys. However, that is the opportunity for, your coaches to go and, like, your offensive line coach, you don't want him sitting there watching the clock when he's trying to make adjustments in the middle of the game with his offensive line. Hey, slide this way, slide this protection this way, work on this, check for this and stuff like that. Like, you want him to be able to coach his guys up. That's why you have that head coach to delegate responsibility and get stuff out of his plate so that he can focus on game management, right?
Well, no, that's why what you're doing is you're having your guys on offense, and when they're out there, Mike Munchak, he's not keeping control of the game clock. That's what your head coach is for. That's what he should be doing at that point. You have a defensive-minded head coach. Now, when the defense is out there and the game clock needs to be managed, that's when you go over him. You make sure Mike Munchak has his guys talked up, whatever they need to get coached out and everything. Then you have that focus switch. You can even have it be, Chris Cooper, he's an up-and-coming offensive line coach.
Right.
You can have him take over those duties, trying to bring him in, and then have him come over, and Mike Munchak, come over and sit there and focus on the game clock on the defense. Kind of balance it out. I mean, that way you're not having the guy when their side of the ball is out there on the field, they're not having to try to do this other part. That's part of what with delegating for me anyways. It's not so much that, here, you do this completely. It's, hey, when I got to do this, you can take over doing this. And Tim Durr says, bring back Wade Phillips to be the DC. Yeah, that wouldn't go over so well with the two defenses that these guys run.
No, they don't run anything close stylistically. I mean, Wade is way more pressure-oriented man coverage. Vic is drop everyone back into coverage, get home with 4, and it's a completely different style. I got to grab this comment really fast. I think this is the right one. John, if you have the right one, make sure you grab that. This is the right one. Andrew Baker jumping in here, dropping some stars, 50 stars on Facebook. What's up, gang? Incomplete. I can't wait to hopefully finally have Chubb and Vaughn together all season. That is going to go a very long way into really dialing this defense up into what it really could be. I mean, the Broncos went out, they invested heavily in the secondary. They added a couple of linebackers, added a couple of safeties. Obviously, we know all the additions, Kyle Fuller, Ronald Darby, bringing in Pat Surtain, obviously. But the biggest thing is, to me, in my eyes, as far as the defensive performance is concerned, is the return of Von Miller back to full health. Bradley Chubb coming another year off of that torn ACL and getting that pass rush going, especially with, Shelby Harris being healthy again. You get Draymond Jones taking that next step as well. I mean, this pass rush could be absolutely ferocious on the front side, and having Vaughn and Chubb together is going to be a big key in that.
So, Lance, here's a little bit of an educational moment for you. Do you know what the most predictive stat is for sacks?
Pressures.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep. And going back from 2011 to 2019, since we haven't had a 2021 season, I went back and I looked at all edge rushers. I mean, defensive linemen, defensive edges, all guys who their job is to get after the quarterback, and looking at guys who had at least 55 pressures and then less than 10 sacks, and then what they did the following year. And of this, let me actually get to my thing is, I mean, I had to narrow it down because there's like over like 60 total, and I wanted to keep it Bradley Chubb related. I wanted to keep guys similar to his age and things like that. So guys who are like in year 13 and 14, like I kind of canceled out. 17 of the 24 that ended up being kept increased their sack total. 5 of them decreased their sack total, but 2 of them ended up getting hurt the year after, so they didn't play a full season. But the year after that, the 2 drastically increased it by over 6 sacks.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm thinking that the average increase was about 4 sacks. And what was Bradley Chubb's number last year?
I think 7. I think he had 7.
So I think that this year with Von Miller back, I'd be looking at 13 sacks from Bradley Chubb, and like Von Miller having a pretty good number back. I mean, the historical trends with Von Miller in his situation, guys come back around his age, having a big injury, coming back from that injury, they're picking up over 10 sacks, historically. So definitely going to be interesting to watch. I mean, those 2 guys are going to be so important, especially with the additions that you made in the secondary. Being able to get pressure up front with as few as possible helps out the secondary so much and allows them to go and make plays on the ball. And I see some conversation about Spencer Rattler in the chat real quick. I just want to talk on this is there's a lot of issues with Spencer Rattler, and QB1 I think was the show that he was on, and you can just see this arrogance, this little butthead of a kid just kind of be just a pain in the butt. Now, there is no doubt about what Spencer Rattler can do on the field. The kid can play football, but the questions are all off the field. Can he handle it mentally? There's been some stuff coming out of college that dealing with coaching, not taking to it, not ignoring coaches, things with butting heads with teammates, a fight in the locker room was one thing that I heard about. Just a bunch of different stuff with him that just makes you be cautious about it. So this year, I'm going to be really curious to hear how he does off the field about it and what improvements he needs to make on the field. Obviously, you want to see that. But, I mean, I wouldn't say that he's Johnny Manziel, because Johnny Manziel's issues were drug-related, and I haven't heard that to be the case with Rattler. I'd say he's more Baker Mayfield when it comes to the attitude, with a little bit of Johnny Manziel's attitude mixed in.
That I think is actually probably the more accurate take on that, Eric, is that he's just a jerk. He's a butthead. He's arrogant. He's cocky. He thinks that he's like his crap don't stink. Like he's really, really, really not a good teammate. And there's been multiple people that have said that coming out of Oklahoma as well. I mean, I think there's been players that have said that as well anonymously, but they've said that he's just a jerk in the locker room. And he was at the Elite 11 quarterback camp. I think I'm not sure if he was at the Manning Academy either, but I know that that QB1 show that you were talking about, and you could just tell he's just not necessarily a good person. And that, I mean, there's qualities to like about that, but there's also a line that you have to draw in the sand. And I think that he's over that line, quite honestly. And again, as Eric said, the physical ability, his talent on the football field is undeniable. It's just, is he going to destroy your locker room and bring the whole team down with him? So Seth Harmon, go ahead.
And the big difference with Baker Mayfield is that Baker Mayfield, a lot of people felt he crossed that line. And I mean, a few times he'd take a step over, but he would kind of bring it back. I mean, Spencer Rattler, he has no issues taking a 40-yard sprint past it and dancing around before coming back.
Yeah. I mean, everyone knows the Baker Mayfield clip where he was grabbing himself and so I think he was playing against Kansas, and he grabbed himself in his private area and was screaming F you to some referees or to some players or something like that.
It was to the fellow team.
Oh, it was to the fellow team, yeah.
To the opposite team, yeah.
Yeah,
because what went best was that he went to give handshakes before the game and they slapped his hand away.
I remember that. Yep, that's right. And he went out and threw like 5 touchdowns and just destroyed them. It just was, John's coming in here in our private side chain. I didn't know about that, John. You got to check that out. You really do. First off, I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious. And I thought that might speak a little bit to my character content, but at the same time, when you're just being a jerk about things, like, and that's the deal. Like that's how it's going to be, and that's your arrogant, cocky attitude. That at least he stayed in character, like, right.
Well, good news is, since you're talking about your character, everybody in the chat, if you live in Denver, we're going to be before the September 26th game against the Jets. Lance and I will actually be in town. We'll be tailgating for the Mile High Huddle meetup. You can meet me, Lance, Chad, Wannabeast will be there. I think Luke will be there. Zach will be there. You guys get a chance to meet us and get to see how we are in person and everything. And trust me, I'm completely different.
Yeah,
I'll disappoint you.
He's quite honestly, he's actually a teddy bear. I've gotten to know Eric pretty well over these last couple of seasons, and he really is a teddy bear. He's really fun to be around. Kenny Booker and Mike Evans are going to be there as well. Got to grab this super chat from Seth really fast. $5 donation here. Nothing to say, just showing some love. We appreciate you, Seth, for jumping in here. I want to do this really fast before we move on to the offensive side of the football. The Moving the Sticks podcast with Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah on NFL Network actually just dropped a clip on Twitter right before we went live, and there's some very interesting conversation in there with Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. Let me see if I can pull this up really fast. And
all right, Denver, Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater.
I think management would love to see Drew Lock win it. I think Vic Fangio would like to see Teddy Bridgewater win it, because if Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have epic moments in the preseason where he's turning it over like crazy, I think he emerges as a starter.
So this is where I'll disagree with you, because I think it might be universal that they'll be rooting for Teddy, because George Payton didn't draft Drew Lock. He signed Teddy Bridgewater, so it's almost a feather in his cap if Teddy emerges as that guy. We always talk about the formula, right? Every team's got to find their winning formula and how it works. And when you look at this Denver Broncos defense and how good they could potentially be, the formula for them is going to be don't turn the football over. And that, to me, points more towards Teddy than it does towards Drew. It limits the upside, limits the excitement. But I'm guessing that when we finish the season that Teddy will have started more games than Drew Lock in the upcoming season. That's my guess.
So to me, the biggest thing that I gleaned away from that and just kind of take away, and I mean, this is all speculation, guys, don't get me wrong, but the biggest thing I took away from that was when Daniel Jeremiah said that it might be it might be universal that George Payton and Vic Fangio want Teddy Bridgewater to be the guy. I don't necessarily know that I agree with that sentiment, but I understand where Daniel Jeremiah is coming from with that, where, you know, Teddy Bridgewater doesn't really turn the football over. He had a couple of bad games. He had 11 interceptions. I know all that, but he is incredibly efficient. And hopefully, I mean, he can still be that efficient. And hopefully Drew Lock can be that efficient and still win the job. And then we have that high end upside. Now, going back to the conversation with Vic Fangio and with the offensive coaching staff, we'll devolve into Pat Shurmur here as well. Which one of these quarterbacks really gives them the best opportunity to ensure that they continue to keep their jobs this next year?
Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, what Darren Jeremiah said is spot on. Is everyone in that building, it is universal. They want Teddy Bridgewater to go out and win this job. They want the safe play. They want the guaranteed $10 a day over the potential of $20 or having to pay $20. And you just don't know until the day comes what's going to happen. That's Drew Lock for you. They want the guaranteed $10. That's what Teddy is. And it's his safe play, as I said. I mean, with the defense that's as good as this can be, you just don't want to turn the ball over. You don't want to give the offense extra opportunities to sit there and wear down your defense and put points on the board. You don't. You just want a guy who can reliably move the ball downfield and just be consistent with his play. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about how Teddy Bridgewater didn't protect the ball that well last year, but I mean, before he got hurt, which I think is often gets missed, is that he was actually doing very well before he got hurt. Mm-hmm. Then in that second Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, he hurt his knee, and he just wasn't the same. And it showed up statistically. So, I mean, it's simple as pie, as water pie, whatever pie you want. It's super simple as to why the Broncos would want Teddy Bridgewater to start over Drew Lock, especially if you're coaching, especially if you have a win or else kind of thing that I think that the Broncos do have. I mean, I do think that they have to go at least probably 8-9 to potentially keep their jobs. Like, Teddy's going to get you a lot closer to that than Drew Lock will. Now, I think that Drew Lock may end up starting at the start of the year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the first 3 games and plays pretty well. I mean, pretty solid teams, but they're very young, very inexperienced, still coming together. So he should be able to come out and play well. But what is he going to do against the Ravens? What is he going to do to get that next stretch? So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 6-7 games, and depending on how that goes, may see a switch.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so intrigued by this entire conversation of who gives the Broncos the best opportunity. And Broncos 17-0 coming in here, it's just saying don't turn the ball over. And that is quite honestly what Drew Lock has to do: stay efficient with the football, stop making boneheaded decisions, and he could beat out Teddy Bridgewater. I don't think that there's any denying that. He's got the talent level to be able to do it. It's just those same issues, same deficiencies, and coming from what I've heard at Broncos Country tonight, and coming from some other people that I've heard seen on Twitter and that are in Denver media that were at practices at the OTAs scrimmages and mini camp and everything. They were saying, Drew Lock's still making the same boneheaded decisions. He's holding on to the football too long. He's still the same guy. It's kind of disappointing. We're going to learn a lot more. Don't get me wrong. OTA's mini camp, that is what it is. That's like 3% of the total evaluation here. Like, quite honestly, this is a great super sticker. I love this from Broncos 17-0 with a $20 super chat coming in here with the video game controller. Woot! Thanks, man. We appreciate you for joining us. But back to this conversation. I mean, if Drew can maintain some consistency and continue to show the flash plays that he had last season, which there were some, I'm not going to deny that, but they were just so few far in between that you never really got the idea that he was ever going to be that guy. And that's kind of where I stand here. Now, back to Teddy Bridgewater, I don't know that necessarily they want him to win the job, but also I kind of think they do. They don't want to be that boring, mundane offense and just relying on the defense all the time. Vic Fangio would love that. But Pat Shurmur, if Pat Shurmur is running this offense and Teddy's just running checkdowns or scoring 17, 18, 19 points a season again, is Pat Shurmur really wanting that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's a better chance for him to keep his job than a guy who might help you put the similar points on the board, but turns the ball over just as much as scores, or at a higher rate. Like, it's not just about how many points you're putting on the board. It comes down to wins. It's going to come down to efficiency. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not super stoked that these are our 2 options. Like, it's kind of like you're taking 2 turds and trying to polish one up to be better. And I mean, they both stink. Neither one's what you want out there. I mean, it's just one of them helps you, it gives you a better chance to win than the other.
This is a great comment coming in here from Chase on YouTube saying, I just read an interesting fantasy football stat today. Drew Lock was top 5 in average yards of separation that his targets got last year. That to me is wild, because if he's getting that much separation from his receivers and he still struggled as bad as he does, like, oh man, Eric, yards of separation is one thing, because I mean you're reading both sides of the field. You might not see a guy, something like that, but if you're top 5 in average yards of separation on every single play, that to me just screams inefficient football play. Eric, what do you think on that?
Well, I mean, everybody wants to blame Vic Fangio for what his offense was. I mean, because it was nothing but deep routes, which it wasn't. The receivers, they got open. Drew Lock missed them. I mean, there's only so much you can do when your quarterback's messing open wide receivers. There was a play, I want to say, I'm trying to remember who it was against, but there was Jerry Jeudy standing with no one within 10 yards around him, right by the end zone, and Drew Lock throws it short, and third down, turn the ball over, or it becomes fourth down, but had to punt the ball, because where they were, you were just right outside that field goal range, which, by the way, I mean, it's got to become standard practice that once you cross the 50-yard line, you're not punting the ball.
Right.
It's just so inefficient to do.
So something that I want to kind of touch on really fast, especially with the offense and their red zone inefficiencies last season, because the Broncos offense was not necessarily very efficient. And if Teddy Bridgewater does win this quarterback competition, he's never been necessarily very good in the red zone. Aside from that year, he played 5 games with the New Orleans Saints. He threw 7 touchdowns in 5 games in the red zone, no interceptions, and actually looked like a dominant force. He was very efficient with the football. This Broncos team has a lot better weapons. And I was thinking about this earlier today. So Teddy Bridgewater last year, he had DJ Moore, who's not a red zone threat. You have Robbie Anderson, who's not a red zone threat. And then as Higher Learnings was just up here and showed this comment, very astute point here, Christian McCaffrey was hurt most of last year as well. So Teddy Bridgewater is going to have Melvin Gordon, Flash, and Javonte Williams, Pookie, as safety outlets. Now, that might not necessarily be the case in the red zone, but the weapons that Teddy Bridgewater has to be able to put the football to, Cortland Sutton is a jump ball freak. Noah Fant is a highly athletic, can box guys out, jump ball freak. Albert Okwuegbunam, Tim Patrick. He's got guys that he can toss the football up and show that touch and accuracy, and he might actually take off in the red zone this year. Eric, what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just you have better weapons. You have more versatile weapons. I mean, DJ Moore, he's a good receiver. I mean, Robbie Anderson, he's a good deep threat. DJ Moore, I mean, he's kind of like this guy that he's just kind of reliable. C-Mac's just a playmaker, but when you don't have him very much, they didn't really have a weapon at tight end. The other receivers were just not that great, not worth really mentioning. Curtis Samuel, I mean, they never really figured out how to use him. Like, he was decent, I guess. Like, it was just a mess. I mean, this Carolina Panthers team, I like what they're doing on defense. This defense, I think, has a chance to really surprise this year. But offensively last year, I mean, it was Teddy Bridgewater trying to carry a very bad unit after C-Mac got hurt.
Yep.
I mean, the offensive line was garbage.
Yep.
I mean, everybody wants to talk about how the Broncos offensive line, they were much better than the Carolina Panthers was. And their weapons, despite Cortland Sutton getting hurt, despite the drop passes by Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, they were still had better weapons. Like, it's just it was so much more talent around him in Denver that should help him be a little bit more be more efficient, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, I heard a great statistic earlier today. Of the Carolina Panthers' 11 losses last season, 9 of them were one-score games. So, like, it's not that they were getting blown out and it was so bad that, you know, Teddy Bridgewater was costing football games. And I'm not saying that Drew Lock was doing that either. There were times where he was definitely a big factor in the Broncos losing some football games, making some boneheaded decisions and stuff like that, specifically at the Atlanta game. And he got immediate pressure, but he threw a late interception against Atlanta when the Broncos were actually starting to mount a comeback and ended up closing the game out for the most part. But, I mean, it's a very interesting dichotomy. You've got Locke that has all the potential in the world to be great, and you've got steady Teddy Bridgewater, who is Teddy Two Glover, that, you know, accurate dink and dunk kind of a guy. They're so different in what they do and what they do well that it's going to be very interesting to see how this quarterback competition plays out. Now, I want to kind of move forward here just a little bit because we got about 20 minutes left before we're going to have to get out of here, and unless the chat kind of slows down. The chat's been great tonight as well. I want to say hello, Higher Learnings, Mike S., Chris O'Hearn here as well, Chase jumping in on YouTube, Desert Creature as well. Obviously, Bawana Beast doing the things, running the ones and twos behind the scenes here. But as far as Pat Shurmur is concerned, let's get away from the quarterback conversation. What does Pat Shurmur need to do to really ensure that he has this next season coming forward? And I understand you can't talk about offensive play without talking about quarterbacks, but let's get into some deeper opinions here, some play calling issues, what he needs to do with his offensive skill position players. Let's just list off some things that we had some issues with last year. Eric, go ahead and start.
Well, I mean, he's got to find a better way to use certain weapons, primarily Noah Fant and KJ Hamler.
Yeah.
How he used them last year wasn't exactly the most efficient. KJ Hamler, I mean, I understand why he used him the way he did with the hamstring injury, with him struggling to pick up the offensive playbook. I mean, he just kind of used KJ Hamler as a decoy unless the opportunity was there. And there was missed opportunities. Noah Fant, I mean, he suffered that high ankle sprain, so they kind of had to use him differently. But on top of that is they often went away from it or from what was working, and that's another big issue that Pat Shurmur's got to have. Moron asks, do the Broncos ever throw in screen passes? And no, they really don't. And more the NFL teams are going away from screen passes because they're negative plays for the offense. 99 times out of 100, it's a negative play for the offense. I mean, so you just don't want to run it. Right. You just got to pick that right moment and hope it works out. But I mean, you're not going to be running more than 5-6 screens a game really on average anymore.
Well, and that was something that I wanted to kind of get away from. Not really get away from. Sorry, kind of expand on. Sorry, excuse me. The screen game and the Broncos last year without having the screen game. And this was something I heard again. It was a very interesting conversation about how Pat Shurmur utilized the running backs last season. When he was the head coach in New York, he had Saquon Barkley. And first round, obviously number 2 overall pick, just a gigantic specimen of a man, great running back. Everyone knows who Saquon Barkley is and what he can do, especially in the passing game. Over his first 2 seasons with Pat Shurmur as the head coach, he was targeted in the passing game like 180 some or 190 sometimes in 2 seasons. Like Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay didn't even see a quarter of that last season. Like quite honestly, they didn't have that kind of an opportunity. So I want to see Pat Shurmur get back into that. Maybe not necessarily in the screen game, but utilizing those running backs and maybe having Teddy Bridgewater, a guy that likes to check the football down just a little bit, take what is given to him. Maybe we'll see some of that. I think that's a big priority for him though, is getting those running backs involved and trying to stay away from. He ran a lot of dagger concepts, guys. I don't know if you understand what a dagger concept is. So to kind of briefly break it down for you, have a slot receiver and a receiver on the line of scrimmage on the same side of the field. Your slot receiver is going to run a go or a post route, depending on what the safety alignment is. It's going to be a go route, a 9 route, or a post route. And then your boundary receiver, the guy on the line of scrimmage, is going to run a dig route or a 15-yard in. So it's going to look like this, essentially, okay? So Pat Shurmur loves the dagger concept, and Drew Lock does a really good job, especially when he reads it the right way on actually exploiting the dig on dagger. The dig on dagger is always open, by the way. So, but that like evolve his play calling just a little bit, get some more tight end action moving in here, prioritize some of these other weaponry. I think that's a big thing for Pat Shurmur, quite honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's ways you can get these guys involved, and it's just something that Pat Shurmur's got to do. I mean, and I think that the biggest thing too is that they got it quicker than they did last year. If Drew Lock is struggling, if he's starting and he's struggling to read the whole field like he did for most of the season last year, they got to make that switch quicker to kind of cutting the field in half and just making it easier for him, because you can't go this whole offense trying to force Drew Lock to be something he isn't. So that's going to be another thing is, last year, there's stuff that Pat Shurmur could have done to help out Drew Lock a little bit, and he just didn't. Right.
It goes a big part of utilizing the strengths of your offensive skill positions and utilizing the strengths and weaknesses of your quarterback as well. I mean, Drew Lock was one of the most efficient quarterbacks on play action last season, and he had the fifth. Let's see. I can't remember how that stat read out. I know that he threw 0 interceptions on his play action passes, but for his, which was the best figure in the NFL, tied with Aaron Rodgers, by the way. But Aaron Rodgers threw like 198 passes on play action, where Drew Lock only threw like 110. So they're not giving him the opportunity to utilize that play action, get him into his efficient skill set, and push the ball down the field that way, manipulate the defense. Why aren't the Broncos doing stuff like that? Why aren't they utilizing the screen game and the quick hitter passing that we saw with Rich Scangarello a couple seasons ago? And I had issues with Rich Scangarello. Don't get me wrong, I really did. I hated his play calling. His play designs were horrible. At least Pat Shurmur knows how to design a play. He just doesn't know how to call them in the right sequence. So there's got to be some kind of a happy medium here to get his quarterbacks in rhythm, to specifically Drew Lock. Get him in rhythm, get him seeing the right things, utilize his strengths, specifically the play action stuff, in a much better way. And if he doesn't necessarily do that, and this team finishes, 18th, 19th, 20th in yards and in the bottom 5 or 6 in points, like 18, 19 points a game, regardless of how good this defense is, you need to score 20, 22, 23 points a game to win football games in the NFL anymore right now. Like, that's just how this game is played. You have to score points. You can limit the other team's offense all you want to, but we watched Vic Fangio's defense hold Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense to 22 points on Sunday Night Football, and the Broncos still lost because this offense is just so inefficient. And Mike, thank you for the comment. Congrats on the new house, Lance. I appreciate you, man. Our family definitely appreciates you on that. Now, Eric, as far as just, where was I just at? The offensive inefficiencies and stuff with Pat Shurmur and the creativity. Do you think that he can do a better job of that?
I mean, I don't think creative always means successful. Right. I think that's one thing that often gets forgotten with many fans is they see a creative play designed by McVay or Shanahan, and they immediately think that that's always going to work, and they just fail to see those ones that don't. I mean, a creative play, maybe 1 out of 5 works. So I don't know necessarily that Pat Shurmur's got to be more creative. He's just got to disguise his plays a little bit more. He's got to have not to harp on the quarterback. I mean, this is going to be an issue until it's not, but you got to have a quarterback that can make the right reads on it. I mean, the quick passing game, when they tried to do that last year, it wasn't super effective because you didn't have a quarterback that can make the quick enough reads. I mean, and that's not necessarily against Drew Lock either. When Jeff Driscoll started, they were very much a quicker passing game, and he just
he was terrible
about it. So,
Brett Rippon was the most successful in the first 3 quarters of the Jets game. When he started that game and utilizing that quick passing game, and then it just found like the Jets adjusted and they said, we're not going to let you have that. And Bawana coming in here. What about more 1-step throws? I mean, there's your quick passing game. If that's the design you want to get the ball out quick, get it in your playmaker's hands, which I like that philosophy. I really do. I do enjoy the deep shots, but they're so inefficient regardless of what you're doing. Like, get the ball out quick and let your playmakers go to work and let them do the work for you.
What you're doing with a 1-step throw is you're telling your quarterback, hey, you go out there, you make this read. All you do is you look at X receiver, see where they are, and if they're too tightly covered, throw it away. That's all you're doing with 1-step reads. I mean, with Cortland Sutton, throw it up for him to get it. Noah Fant, throw it to an open side. Jerry Jeudy, hopefully he has a step on the inside because, I mean, you're not going to be wanting to throw those 1-step throws for him running outside. Right. You want to have him running inside. Same with KJ Hamler. Albert Okwuegbunam, throw it up for him to go get. You're just telling them this is what you're doing. Go out there. If it's not there, throw it away.
Right. Well, and there's some more nuance to that as well, because I mean you can design a 1-step read into any play design, quite honestly, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a throw it deep or let a guy go get it. You could do a quick slant, 1-step quick slant out of the gun. It's essentially a 3-step drop, but you've just essentially done a 1-step throw, read and throw, hit KJ Hamler on a slant route really fast, and let him just go to work if he has off coverage in the slot. Like, why not? If you got Cortland Sutton with a defensive back 10 yards off and you want to do a 1-step RPO essentially and you see it with Aaron Rodgers all the time when Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, going back all the way through Aaron Rodgers' career, he'll take the snap and he'll fake a quick 1-step throw to the boundary and then turn around and hand the football off. You can design that into your offense. And if you have a big guy like a Cortland Sutton who does a really good job of breaking tackles, you can incorporate that into your offensive scheme more often. And I don't necessarily disagree with the comment. And Eric, I agree with you as well. They are one step throw it away or one step turn around and hand it off. But you can incorporate some different ideas into that. Desert Creature jumping in here with the five.
If you're going to sit there and you're going to try to incorporate a handoff into that, you're making it into an RPO, which is going to require a lot more mental reads from the quarterback position. And quite frankly, I'm just not sure these quarterbacks in Denver can handle it.
That's fair. That's a fair point. Desert Creature jumping in here with the $5 super. Great show, guys. Desert, we appreciate you, man. Thank you for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. And
real quick, I actually pulled up the stats on it. So this whole time, like I heard hardly of what you said, but I was trying to find success for screens. In screenplays across the NFL average was just under 8%. So, I mean, a little bit more than I thought it was, but still rather low. The success rate wasn't even 1%. So on 8% of these plays that they had, you had less than 1% success rate across the NFL.
So what do they quantify as success on that? Is
a success rate on a screenplay is getting at least 1 yard positive gain.
Wow. You're telling me that the screenplays across the NFL are that inefficient that 1% of
I've been saying that.
I did not think it was that bad. I knew it was bad. I didn't think it was that bad. That's quite shocking to me. I'm not gonna lie on that. I like when you hit a screen and you'll see it, especially with the Broncos last year. They were not good in the screen game. I think a big part of that goes to the offensive line, DeMar Dotson not being able to move well enough to get out in front. But I mean You wouldn't think. I mean, you think of good teams that run screens and just call them at the right time. Kansas City's one, even before Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Like Andy Reid did a really good job of calling screens, going back even to his Philadelphia days. So it's just kind of surprising to me.
Screens behind the line of scrimmage. That's what it is. I mean, Kansas City, their screenplays are a lot of them, especially when they're getting Tyreek Hill. They kind of push it a little bit, and they're right at that line of things. So they're probably a little bit more successful. I can actually even go and break that down and just see how much different it is for them. Just give me 1 second as it loads up. They were a little bit more successful. I mean, they were about 5% successful, if my math is correctly.
Okay. It just seems to me like you see these big explosive plays on screens and you think that that's a great idea to do it. Now, if you're incorporating that as a part of your offense over the whole, like I definitely understand where you're coming from there. But and like you said, 5-6 times a game, you might run a screen really fast. And it doesn't have to be – I'm not talking about just running back screens either. I am talking – the dreaded tight end screen, but wide receiver bubble screens and tunnel screens and stuff like that. You see some explosive plays, and it's an extension of the running game, and it keeps your pass rush honest. That really is the biggest thing to screenplays is it keeps your defense honest.
So to actually be correct on here, because I thought I had the year. It doesn't have it for 2020. It has it for 2019. It was set for some reason to 2017. So the Kansas City Chiefs, their success rate was just under 7%, if my math is correctly. The league average was just over 1% for success rate, and they were ran just under 8%. It was like 7.89.
That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. Hey, hold on.
2019 Drew Lock success rate was under 3%.
Wow. Malcolm Brown up in Homer, Alaska saying what's up, and he got his Dove Valley Deep Diver shirt. I think he got it today. I think that was what my email said. Chase Wellner, I know you reached out to me the other day asking about that. It decided, so I just got a notification earlier today that it shipped today. I was talking to you earlier about it, and Michaela Parker, yours is already on the way, so you guys should be seeing those here in the next couple of days. Those are the new Dove Valley Deep Diver shirts that we did for the giveaway for episode 100 for anybody that wasn't here for that. So, Malcolm, I'm glad you enjoyed the T-shirt, and thank you for being one of the most staunch Dove Valley Deep Divers supporters that we have. Quickly before we get out of here, let me check the private chat really fast. John was asked for a picture to share if they, guys. So back to Malcolm, Michaela, and Chase. When you guys get those, I know you guys are all on Twitter and on Facebook as well. Take a picture of you guys up, send them to us. You can find me on Twitter at SandersonMH8. Send them to me. Send them to John at JohnKMHH or Eric as well.
I'm also not the best one to send it to.
Well, just at Mile High Huddle. Just go at Mile High Huddle. That's the mother account. Chad Jensen runs that, and he's going to see it. He'll put it up on the Mile High Huddle Instagram page and then retweet it on Twitter and put it on Facebook as well, that you guys got your new Dove Valley Deep Divers merch. So again, guys, thank you for all your support. Before we get out of here, though, we got to talk about Ed Donatel again. And
can we talk quickly about Aaron Rodgers? I don't know if you've seen the video. He just threw a football 150 yards in the air.
What?
Yeah. He just threw a football 150 yards in the air. That Colts punter, name escapes me.
Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee has it on his Twitter. So if you guys have Twitter, go check it out. Yeah, he just launched it. 150 yards in the air.
That's insane. My goodness. And people think that he's slowing down, and that there was some comments in the chat earlier about how much of a drama queen he is, and he would be bad fit in the locker room. And I've heard nothing.
Most of his teammates love him.
They love him. They think that he's like Devontae Adams is ready to Devontae Adams literally said, yeah, we're going to get started talking about contract talks, but I'm paying attention to what happens with Aaron Rodgers because that might dictate what's going to happen with me. Like, they love Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. The fans might not. The ownership might not. He might be kind of being a jerk about everything right now. But you know what? He's not a bad teammate. There might be some people that he rubs the wrong way, but not everyone's for everyone. I'm not the most popular guy in the world. I know Eric's definitely not the most popular guy in the world. He's kind of a jerk. He's actually a teddy bear, but go run down the list.
I'm a jerk.
Run down the list. Benjamin Albright, he's not for everyone. It doesn't matter. You're not going to like every single person, and that happens in every single locker room. But guess what? You stay away from them because you're winning football games. Like that's how it is. And if Aaron Rodgers comes into this team, the Broncos are going to win a lot of football games, and everyone's going to shut their damn mouths and just be happy about it. They might not talk to him and sit next to him at the lunch table, but you know what? They're going to be happy about it because the Broncos are going to be Super Bowl contenders. So
people don't realize this. Peyton Manning wasn't liked by everyone. Tom Brady's not liked by everyone. I mean, when you get to be such a good quarterback, such a good NFL player, not everybody's going to like you. George says screen passes are way more successful. I call BS. They're not.
They're not statistically proven.
They're not.
Proven. They're not.
It's right there. Facts. Like.
Rodgers' talent is undeniable. The problem is how long will he play? He's 37 right now. Tom Brady's 43. And Rodgers doesn't seem to be slowing down by any stretch of the imagination. I do agree with that. Now, this is an interesting conversation. Eric, if you had the opportunity to grab Aaron Rodgers right now or wait until next season when the Russell Wilson Seattle Seahawks marriage comes to an end, like it sounds like it's going to happen, which would you prefer?
Aaron Rodgers now.
Aaron Rodgers now. Okay. I think that I would go the opposite direction. I think I'd go get Russell Wilson first. You got a longer – he's 33. Aaron Rodgers is 37. If I could get Russell Wilson, put him on this team with the weapons they've got, the offensive line they've got, the defense, especially next season, boy, that's good for 7-8 years. Like, quite honestly, Russell Wilson could play until he's 38, 39, 40 years old, and you've opened a multi-year championship window with a Russell Wilson. He's kept that team competitive with no help for the most part for the last almost decade. Like, quite honestly, he's been to 2 Super Bowls, won one. I'm surprised he's never got an MVP vote, which is just a shock to me. But I honestly, if it was Aaron Rodgers now or Russell Wilson next year, I would rather go Russell Wilson next year and see if you can't get him.
He's a scaredy cat. After he gets hit, he'll
get
the ball out a lot quicker, and that bothers me.
I don't disagree with that, and I saw that graph, and it was a very interesting piece of information, especially regarding Drew Lock, about how he doesn't get rattled. He's still kind of the same player after he gets hit. But Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and what was it? Carson Wentz, I think, were the bottom 3 in that, where they when they get hit, it was Jared Goff. Sorry, so those 3 guys, when they get hit, their next 3 play averages are down like almost 3%. Like, it's a wild statistic to see. But I don't disagree with you, but I think that with Russell Wilson, he's never really had a great offensive line in this Broncos roster. The offensive line they have potential to be a top 10, maybe top 5 unit.
To go get him?
Say what?
Are you willing to sell the future to go get him?
Are you willing to
sell the farm, even though nobody will tell me what that actually means?
Right. Are you willing to sell the farm to go get Aaron Rodgers?
Yes. What's the farm?
Yeah.
I live in Alaska. There's no need for a farm here.
3 firsts, 2 seconds, and Bradley Chubb.
3 firsts, 2 seconds, and Bradley Chubb, yes.
To go get Aaron Rodgers?
Yes.
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. I know I'm going to be called an idiot, whatever. And I was like, yeah, you do that. Quarterback's so important.
Yep, it's way too important. Literally number one priority. All right, quickly, Ed, let's get away from this. I don't want to bring in Rodgers, Wilson, any more quarterback talk than we've already gotten into because it's just hot water scenario for us. Eric, Richie Rich comes in here and says Eric has a very large ice cube farm.
Yeah, the only types of farms around here are salmon farms, and a little bit of sad news actually. Somebody disposed of some needles in a local salmon farm, and causing some really bad damage.
That's not cool. Thanks for ruining the vibes, man. Damn. All right, quickly before we get out of here, Ed Donatel, and this is probably the quietest coordinator we've ever had. Ed Donatel doesn't necessarily do a whole lot. He's very big in incorporating the game plan and going over stuff like that. That's what coordinators really do, and especially when you have a coordinator that doesn't call the plays. What does Ed Donatel need? What does he need to do to save his job this year?
He needs Vic Fangio to save his job. Vic Fangio are tied at the hip. Like, it's that simple. It's one reason why I was willing to wait for Ed Donatel so long, give us so few time. It doesn't matter anything. It's just as long as Vic Fangio keeps his job, because Vic Fangio and Ed Donatel, they're tied at the hip.
Yeah. And they have been. I mean, that's Ed Donatel was Vic Fangio's first guy to come in and run his defense. Like, that's why he's in Denver. I mean, it would be really nice to have Brandon Staley, but unfortunately, he's with the Chargers and took an opportunity. And I don't blame the guy, but Brandon Staley would have been.
We'll see what he does as a head coach.
Yeah, I'm not saying about a head coach. I'm saying as a defensive coordinator. Like, as a defensive coordinator, get that young blood in there and really kind of teach him and let him grow and continue to grow under Vic Fangio as he did in Chicago. Were they together in San Francisco? I don't think that so. They were. No, that doesn't sound right. But I know that he was with Vic Fangio in Chicago for a couple of years, and then was with Vic Fangio in Denver there for a minute, and then he ended up taking that defensive coordinator job.
His first NFL experience was with the Chicago Bears in 2017. Before that, he was just doing college ball. John Carroll, James Madison.
Okay. Gotcha. And like I said, I mean, that's a bright up and coming defensive mind. You pair him with a Vic Fangio that knows every deep and dark secret of the NFL that you could. He's forgotten more about NFL football than most of us will ever learn. Like, it's crazy to me what the amount of football that guy understands. And I don't know if many people know this, Eric. I'm not sure if you knew this either. Vic Fangio is actually a baseball analytics guy. Like, when has his off time, he loves to study baseball analytics, which to me is
only he'll do that with football.
Right, no doubt. All right, let's see here. What do we got? I'm going to check the chat one more time.
Well, I'm just going to say is on Dylan Von Arx's point here. It's good to hear the other side of the argument. And in no way, shape, and form is this a shot at anyone else or anything like that. Is like, I mean, we're all going to sit here and we're going to share our opinions on it. 7 days a week, you guys have a show. And I know nothing against Chad or Zach. They have their things. I know that they're very staunch Lock supporters, very anti getting Aaron Rodgers. I get that. I mean, but Friday night, you guys have us. We're not the biggest of Lock supporters, and we're guys that we want it. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's not bad to hear another opinion that doesn't agree with you. I mean, it's one of the best things about the world. It's things that help you grow as a person, especially with football. It helps you grow as an analyst. When you have an opinion that goes against you, especially when it comes to like college football, I mean, I don't know how many times that I can say that I've learned a lesson because of talking with Lance or Nick or Carl or somebody else that's an NFL scout or a draft scout, and they had a different opinion of me, and maybe go back and watch and check, and it was like, hey, there it is.
Yeah, I mean, Nick likes to say it all the time. Get out of the echo chamber. You know, here's some different opinions. That's why I'll listen to 104.3 The Fan. I'll listen to Broncos Country Tonight, and those guys have this ongoing feud and everything back and forth. Like you never know what you're going to get. Listening to Eric talk, listening to Chad and Zach, Nick and Carl, Luke. I mean, I listen to as much Broncos content as I possibly can. I really do. It's what I do all day. To be able to hear different viewpoints and to have an open conversation, it might actually make you a little bit smarter. You might learn something and maybe then reform your opinion, kind of like with me and Drew Lock. Like that might reform my opinion. If I hear, somebody else's viewpoint, I might make a new decision, make a new viewpoint on myself. I mean, we did it with Garrett Bowles. We were the only ones saying Garrett Bowles has this opportunity to be, an all-pro. Especially me. I said that multiple times. He could be an all-pro or Pro Bowl kind of a player. Look at what happened. Like everyone wants to, harp on these same opinions, and then it's just over and over and over. Like to hear somebody else give their viewpoint and to have an open conversation, be willing to learn and hear somebody out and have a great insight and open conversation is something you can never pass up. And I love to do that as well. So let's see here. Chris O'Hearn, why don't we talk about if we get Aaron and we never make it past the AFC Championship game? This is football. Nothing is a guarantee. So giving up what we had to do, would it still be worth it?
You answer your question in your comment, just so you know. This is football. Nothing is guaranteed. Giving up those picks that aren't guarantees for a guy that at least is getting you to the AFC Championship and possibly to the Super Bowl, yeah, it's worth it. Like, here you are. You have a box that's getting to at least the AFC Championship game, possibly beyond it, or you have a box that just some picks that you may hit on, you may not. And even if you do hit on them, there's no guarantee you're getting to the playoffs or getting to the AFC Championship game even, and possibly beyond that.
Yeah.
You take the guarantee AFC Championship game with the possibility of getting past it. That's the closest thing to the guarantee. That's the only guarantee you have there. Nothing is guaranteed, and you want to sit here and talk about trying to keep draft picks, which is the farthest thing from a guarantee there is in the NFL.
We love to break down the draft, but there is literally no guarantee. I mean, I was a Richie Grant stan. You all know exactly how I felt about Richie Grant, and he might turn out to be the worst safety that's ever set foot on a football field. Nobody even knows. But when you have a guy, and yeah, Aaron Rodgers is 37 years old. It's rough because he's not going to be around for very long, but he has a proven 16-year-long track record of being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and constantly taking his teams to the playoffs. And in fact, has been in back-to-back NFC Championship games. So I would much rather see that and get the Broncos back to the playoffs, back to relevancy with that, than hold on to hope that let's just say the Broncos finish, 1-16 and they end up with the number 1 overall pick and they go get Spencer Rattler. And he might be great. He very well could be the greatest thing in the world. He could be the next Johnny Manziel and flame out of the NFL. He could be the next Ryan Leaf and be one of the biggest, or Jamarcus Russell be one of the biggest busts this league has ever seen.
I mean, that was the big argument with getting Justin Fields is, these aren't guarantees, but they want to keep these draft picks from trying to get the closest thing to a closer thing to a guarantee. Before we get to Andrew Lamp's question, I got to shout out Chase Wallner. If you're in here, I just saw your meme about Broncos for breakfast. Hilarious, absolutely hilarious, very well done. And the meme, it's what's his name, the dwarf from Lord of the Rings,
Tyrion Lannister.
No, that's Game of Thrones.
Oh, sorry,
Lord of the Rings.
Gimli.
Yes, Gimli. It's Gimli, and it's the thing with Legolas. He says, "MHH community, never thought I'd get Bronco news from a Falcon fan." And it's Scott Kennedy's face over Legolas. What about news from a friend? MHH community. I could do that. Very funny. Very funny. Got a laugh out of me. Now, this year's college free agent I'm keeping my eyes on, Andre Mintz.
Yeah, that's a good one. Drew Hillman is another good one as far as a reserve swing tackle. Warren Jackson. Kenny Booker actually dropped a piece on Warren Jackson just the other day. This wide receiver room is very stacked, obviously. I mean,
has he learned to run routes?
I don't know, but it sounds like he's been
play physical.
It sounds like he's been playing pretty well from what I've heard, and this might be just Ryan Edwards.
I'm not throwing my hat in that ring.
Well, I mean, it was just another name to throw out there. Andre Mintz, Drew Himmelman. Those are probably the two guys that you're going to see have the best opportunity to maybe even land on the 53-man roster. But I mean, Warren Jackson, he might make a practice squad for sure. Those are probably the top 3 guys, quite honestly.
I'd say very slim shot for Warren Jackson.
Well, we'll see how it plays. Like I said, I've just heard some nice things coming from Denver media that was at practice.
The one defensive back, McCain, I think is his name. He's another one to keep an eye on.
I'm not sure who you're talking about. Yeah, let's see here. What else do we got? We actually got to end that here. Andrew, thank you for the stars on Facebook as well. Before we get out of here, just got to say thank you very much for joining us. Thank you all for joining us on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast.
Since it was kind of brought up, Richie Rich asked, who is the other tall wide receiver? Every receiver the Broncos brought in this year, minus the 2 returners, are tall.
They're huge. Warren Jackson's 6'6". He's
Devontae Dukes is one that I would think has a better chance of making it over him. He's another one I'd keep an eye on. Well over Warren Jackson. Jackson, not good.
Right. Well, and Bawana's actually showing it's in the chat, guys. The Kenneth Booker piece on Warren Jackson. So like he says, dark horse rookie roster guy, undrafted free agent out of Colorado State.
It's a good piece by Kenneth. Definitely worth the read. I just happen to disagree with Kenneth on this.
Okay,
which we talked about on Twitter too.
Yeah, and I mean, like we just got talking about, disagreement and having an open conversation and being able and willing to listen and learn is never a bad thing. But anyways, guys, we got to get out of here. We're at an hour and 8 minutes. So we're 8 minutes over our deadline. Thank you all again for joining us on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. A great show, great chat tonight. You guys can find us on Twitter. You follow me at Sanderson MHH, for Eric at Eric Trickle, also for John at John K K-A-Y MHH. Also, guys, John, let me get the sticks here really fast so I can run through this. Also, guys, while you're at it, follow the mother account at Mile High Huddle. That's instant news and analysis on your Denver Broncos. We got the film pieces that Eric's going to be working on. The Jerry Jeudy piece is going to be coming very soon. There's breaking news and analysis, film articles, opinion articles, anything regarding your Denver Broncos. You're going to find it at Mile High Huddle. Also, guys, while you are at it, make sure you guys are following at DVDD_pod. That's the podcast account where you're going to find what we're going to be talking about. And every now and again, we'll throw some takes out there. Facebook users, go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Become a supporter. Click that blue Become a Supporter button. $5 a month, going to get you some premium content, including Kelberman's Corner, which airs Sundays at noon, and also this guy over to my left over here, Trickle Zone. The Trickle Zone airs Saturdays at noon. Eric, what's on tap for the Trickle Zone this week?
We're going to be talking about why Aaron Rodgers will save the Broncos. Now, we're going to be talking about the training camp battles to keep an eye on, and it's going to be on the defensive side of the ball. Last Saturday, we talked about the offensive side of the ball minus the quarterback position, right tackle, center, that final receiver spot, which Warren Jackson wasn't mentioned, tight end 2, running back. So we're going to be talking about corner number 6, because I think the top 5 are pretty much set. That safety battle for number 3, is it going to be Caden Stearns or Jamar Johnson? We're going to be talking about those battles on the defensive side of the ball to keep an eye out on training camp. Very excited, man. Very fun. Make sure you guys come join me.
Yeah, that's
you get almost a half an hour of just me talking and struggling as I'm trying to talk and breathe and sit here and not have my mouth dry out for half an hour.
It's actually quite difficult, guys. Trust me, I know. No, I'm looking forward to that. Can't wait to get to sink my teeth into that one. Really kind of intrigued as far as is it going to be Caden Stearns or Jamar Johnson? Honestly, I think that the slight edge to me goes to Caden Stearns because he's much better tackler. So you might see him put on the field a little bit more than Jamar Johnson.
So I wouldn't say much better, but definitely a little bit better. Fun fact, of 199 safeties, Jamar Johnson was 7th for worst missed tackle percentage in college football last year.
So is that 7th bad or 7th good?
7th worst.
So 7th bad. Gotcha.
7th bad.
Okay. All righty, guys.
28% or something like that. Keep an eye out for my Jamar Johnson draft profile, which will have that statistic in there, and it'll be mentioned, I believe, in the video, which will drop on YouTube. Hopefully, it'll be shortly.
Yeah. Again, guys, thank you all for all of your support, the Facebook users and everything. Another great way you guys can show your support is by going to huddleuppod.com. That's the merch tent. You guys get yourself a hat, get that new Dove Valley Deep Divers #State of Being t-shirt. There's a face mask, coffee cup, hoodie, anything to suit your fancy. Some for the guys, some for the gals, onesie for your baby if that's what your kind of thing is. Great way to show some support. But if you guys are not financially able to do so, become a supporter or hitting up the merch booth. The 3 things everyone should be doing from now on: subscribe, wherever you guys are watching this on YouTube, especially Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, does not matter. Wherever you guys get your podcast content, subscribe to Mile High Huddle, like every video and post you guys see. And if you love it, share it. Get in front of as many Broncos fans as humanly possible, because that is the most simple and organic way to help us grow our community and help us do what we do best, which is cover your Denver Broncos. Now, Eric, I got a long weekend scheduled ahead of me. Got some yard work to do and everything like that. Kind of just finishing, settling in. Any plans this weekend and any last words before we get out of here?
Yeah, I actually have a couple things. I finally got into Dungeons and Dragons, so
nice.
My nerd side has hit that ultimate level. I'm actually working on putting together my first campaign, playing with some family. And then one more comment that I want to address from Chris, saying there are more successful that have been drafted than someone getting a big contract and moving to a different team. That is true, because there's also, 7 times the amount of draft picks every year than there are total Super Bowl winners? Not quite 7 times, but significantly more. So, I mean, it's just the data there just kind of in flux. And it doesn't help that the Broncos' most recent Super Bowl and the most recent Super Bowl winner have been a quarterback who's gotten a big contract and moved to a different team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, there's a little bit of logical fallacy there with your comment, man. And then Richie. I wouldn't say Johnson's going to be Bosby all over again. Bosby was a thing who he just didn't like to be physical. I mean, he just had a thing. Johnson likes to be physical. He's just got to be. He's just got to clean up the tackling aspect of it a little bit. And being a safety compared to a corner is also going to be a big difference for Johnson. Not saying he'll be great. Not saying he won't be similar to Bosby, but there's differences there.
Well, the thing to me is just the physicality coming downhill and the run fits that Vic Fangio forces his safeties to do a lot of. I mean, Kareem Jackson does it very well. Justin Simmons, obviously, as well. Caden Stearns has that physicality. He might not be the best tackler, but he's a much better tackler and much more physical presence than Jamar Johnson is. So that's why I said that. I think that Caden Stearns is going to have that first opportunity. And you're going to see Jamar Johnson playing more of the Justin Simmons role where he does play the single high and the high safety more than roaming around down the box in the run fits. So that's where it comes to me. With Kareem Jackson being 33 years old and on a 1 year, $5 million contract, you might see him start to phase out of this defense a little bit. And Caden Stearns projects to be the better replacement there.
And Richie, I think that my comment kind of got misinterpreted on your end. Sometimes liking to be physical it's got to be needed. I mean, there's guys who have good tackle form and everything. They just don't like to be physical. So they just kind of limit their opportunities for it. I mean, Johnson, he's not afraid to mix it up. He's just got to clean up the technique and everything like that. It's like Noah Fant with his blocking. He doesn't mind blocking. He likes to do it. He just has to improve the technique and technical aspect of it. And he's showing the improvement. So you got to have the attitude. Like that's got to be there, and Johnson has it.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's got to do it for us. We're getting out of here. Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to take this over from Lance. Goodbye.
Thank you all again for joining the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Y'all stay safe, take care, have a great rest of your weekend. And as always, before we get out of here, go Broncos. See you later.